Hello, everyone. A very good afternoon to all our mummies and daddies and little ones who are here and also watching the live stream, or maybe you're catching this video a little bit later. Welcome to PCF Parenting Conference 2023. My name is Evelyn, and if you find me a little bit familiar or my voice a little bit familiar, that's because I work in radio. 我是 Yes933 DJ， 明天正式回去值班，请多多支持早上10点的节目。Okay, just a little bit about myself. Actually, a little bit more. I'm a mom of two boys. They are turning 3 and turning 8 respectively. So actually this morning, we already had our parent versus child struggle. We already had that this morning. So I'm sure, every single day there are more challenges than you can count with both hands. So that's why we're here at the parenting conference to learn more strategies so that we can deal with them, right? Okay, we're very excited to have you with us on a Sunday afternoon. And I'm very sure that you'll benefit greatly from the panel discussion later on, and also from all the events, all the activities in this year's Parenting Conference 2023. PCF Parenting Conference 2023 is part of Singapore Parenting Festival by MediaCorp and the Asian Parent. Besides the panel discussions, there are numerous parent and child workshops, art and craft and storytelling activities for children at various venues today at One Punggol. I hope our parents in the audience have already had lunch. Yes. The kids already have lunch? Yes, great! Because hungry kids are pretty fun to deal with. Okay, because they're here, you see. So yeah, you guys are really fun to deal with. And sometimes you have to listen to Papa and Mama, okay? Okay? Hi. Hello. I think he finds this really fascinating. Is it like the first time he's seated in a live theater setting? Okay, that's cute. That's fun. A new experience. It is important for parents to understand the importance of a balanced approach to screen time, especially with the alpha generation who grew up with mobile phones and tablets. At PCF, the curriculum promotes a healthy balance between technology use and other activities, such as physical play, social interactions, and creative pursuits. And we would like to share more insights with you, dear parents, through 3 distinguished speakers we have invited to share with us their experiences, their knowledge this afternoon. Okay, let me just shortly introduce them. First of all, we have Mr. Shem Yao, Head of Department, Touch Community Services. And we also have Dr. Chitra Ramalingam, Associate Consultant, Department of Child Development, KK Women's and Children's Hospital. And of course, we have Dr. Evelyn Law, Assistant Professor, Department of Paediatrics, Yong Lin School of Medicine, National University of Singapore. Let's give them a round of applause and welcome them on stage. It's a little bit of a walk up on stage. Okay, let's all take a seat and make ourselves comfortable. Remember, if you have any questions, our live audience here, the benefit of being here is that if you have any questions, you can just let us know, raise your hands, and you can ask our experts directly. Okay, maybe let's have a little chat with them first. Hi, Shem.
Hi.
I understand you're a father of 3.
That's right. Yeah.
How is it going?
Ups and downs. There's good days and there's bad days.
Okay.
But that's life.
But you're also not just a hands-on father, you're also very in touch with all the parents in your community, right?
That's right. Yeah. So I head the Touch Parenting Service at Touch Community Services, being in this line for about 15 years, working with children, youth, and their families and parents. So my main scope of work is to support and journey with parents through their parenting journey.
Do you find that actually there are more parents with problems regarding digital media use?
Yes, because it's part and parcel of our life. And so a lot of the struggles that parents go through is very much related to behaviors and the behaviors related to technology use. And so we are trying to address it and support parents to know how to scaffold and build a healthy and digital culture and lifestyle in the home. And that's really important.
Yes, because in the past, there was just one TV at home, but now there are 10 screens. So it's really hard to keep the screens away from the kids, right?
That's right.
Okay. We'll learn more from you later. And next we have Dr. Chitra. Hello.
Yes, hello.
I understand you have 2 teenage boys. That must be quite fun.
Yeah, of course. Yes, going through, from their young age, and then you just think as they grow older, it may be much easier to handle them. But of course, it brings on challenges as we go along.
Because digital use increases with age.
Absolutely correct.
So is it harder to control?
It is, but I think essentially, as they grow older, you're just parenting them, and initially, yes, probably we were observing and wanting to monitor their use, but as time went by, I think you just have more trust in them, and you have a discussion. So it's more like a healthy discussion at around dinner time, and now they are more, they are older, and now they're able to monitor their own time, and they know, and particularly in teenage years, we know there's so much of schoolwork, and they have to spend using
computers,
digital technology. So it's difficult to monitor all those, but I think it is important for them to learn through that. So just have to use the advantages of technology, and I guess we just have to let them
learn, right? I guess maybe we can talk more about the actual topic later on, but we're also curious about your job as the associate consultant at the Department of Child Development, KK Women's and Children's Hospital.
Yeah, right. So I have probably over 20 years of experience in pediatrics, and I've been a developmental pediatrician probably for about 10 to 12 years now. And I've previously worked in UK for a few years and then moved over to Singapore. So now here in KK, we see children with neurodevelopmental disorders, so children with autism or ADHD or lots of general developmental delays. So yes, it's a minefield, and actually it's important for us, particularly seeing children with developmental delays, and I guess there's a key role for us on the screen time use as well, how to use it effectively for the children.
Yeah, actually we have 2 working mom doctors, pediatricians on stage. So I wonder, okay, Evelyn, Dr. Evelyn, is it easier being a mom because you're a pediatrician?
Wow.
Is this a difficult question to answer?
Yeah, I think it's the other way around. Actually, I think I've become a better pediatrician because now I'm a mom. So I started being a pediatrician about 13 years ago, and I am also a developmental behavioral pediatrician at NUH. So she does KK and I do NUH, and we take care of kids who are just neurodiverse and have different types of special needs.
So today we will be focusing on digital use and its impact on perhaps their physical, emotional, and mental well-being. So you have 2 children, right?
2 girls.
2 girls. Yes. Oh, tell us how that's like.
So one just turned 13. Just 12 days ago. So so that makes me a parent of a teenager. So that's a really different journey. The other one is 8 years of age. So so I think it's really, I'm happy to hear about everyone's journey. Digital media, of course, is a huge thing at my home. Lots of fights and debates about it, but I think it's good to talk about those things today.
True. That's true. Because a lot of times it's not just parents and kids, it's also mom and dad. You have to be in sync. And that's also a big challenge.
Yeah. Grandparents and helpers too.
We have grandparents here today. I met a very friendly granny here. She's waving to me. She came up to me to tell her that she came here today especially to listen to the talk so that she knows how to handle her 2 grandchildren. She's alone today. 谢谢你的支持. Okay, let's, without further ado, we'll let Shem move on with our first presentation. And he's going to be telling us about before it. I'm sure it stands for something, right? All happens. Let's welcome Shem.
Thank you very much. I'll do take this opportunity a short time just to share a little bit before we go into our panel session. And I've titled it Before IT All Happens, Before It Happens. And I think that digital consumption and technology use has become really something that every family struggle with. And so where I'm coming from is from the family angle, and later on the two doctors will be really sharing with you a lot more in-depth research and understanding about how it impacts our children. And so for the parents here, before I get started, I always like to start with this scenario. Parents, when your kids, your little ones are on their devices, and parents at home, watching in from the live stream, you can look at your kids, but probably they're on their games and their devices right now. And let's say you tell them, hey, it's time to stop, time to go out, time to have dinner, time to go to bed. What is their typical response? All right, parents who are live here, what do you think your kids say when you say they're on their phone watching a YouTube video or cartoon, right? And say, time's up, stop now. What do they usually say? Wait,
Yes.
等一下, all right? 5 more minutes.
The child is telling you himself.
2 more minutes.
2 more minutes. Yeah.
Oh, 9.
9.
Interesting the way, very specific. All right. So 9 minutes, and parents being gracious and being loving. You are always there. Okay. I'll let you have 5 more minutes or wait for a while. And that 5 minutes come about 5 more minutes. And typically after 5 minutes, your kids will stop, right?
No.
Right? Right? All right. Does your
No.
kid stop after 5? Right, grandma? No. Grandma say no, it doesn't happen. Right? It's not. Another 5 minutes. Another 5 minutes. This is a point where I will start to lose a little bit of my sanity. And I'm sure many parents are not like that. Just me, all right? But the truth of the matter is, we will go on and we'll go on. And curious, parents, how many another would you go, before you lose it? It is where we start to get really upset. Some parents put up finger 2, some parents are better at long suffering, all right? Some parents are more patient. But for many parents, they struggle with this, and a lot of times our response tend to be like that, all right? Our response will be a bit more extreme, right? Sometimes. So what we do, we shout, we scold, we punish, we switch off the Wi-Fi, we take away the phone, and things starts to escalate. Agree? Right, things start to get really, here we hear the word scream, we hear the word shouting, get angry, blood pressure rises. And so this is a situation that we hear mostly from the parents that we work with and at Touch Parenting. And parents will say, I want to know how to deal with this situation a little bit better, because it's all about managing behaviors. And so on a macro view, I would like to really encourage parents to really look at this from a parental position, because at the end of it, it's about being intentional to manage the situation, even with the use of technology. Right? It does come with its impact, does come with its concerns and issues, but also it comes with a lot of benefits. And so being intentional here is really the key. The second posture is really to prioritize wisely. There will be a lot of issues that you have to deal with, but the key is to prioritize wisely. What do you want to deal with first? Work with it, build up the habit, and move on to the next one. Of course, don't give up. Many parents I've been working with will try to correct a behavior. And what happens is that after a while, they realize that it doesn't work. They kind of want to let go and back away, because the drama, the tension can be overwhelming, and we just don't want to deal with it. So my encouragement to parents is to take the posture of not giving up and work through one concern and challenges one step at a time. Because technology is going to be permeating our lifestyle, and it has permeated our lifestyle in our family already. So we have to make the best of it. So instead of allowing technology to disconnect us, right, it's good to use technology well and to connect with our children and let our children connect with us in both online and offline and the online world. All right. So the first thing that I always advise parents to think about in creating a digital well home, or a home that's well digitally, is to make the home a safe environment where technology use is supervised, is monitored, is shared. So digital experience at home is shared. So let mom know that parents, you need to encourage your children to be able to be open, to tell you what they're watching, to tell you what they're consuming and experiencing online. parents of preschoolers, you need to curate what your children are watching. And that's really important. The content influence minds. So for example, for my children, when my eldest one, when he was younger, he has never watched a single episode of a TV show on Marvel superheroes until he was primary 6. So he didn't have that. So we curate because we are concerned about violence and languages, and that helped him to pick up appropriate content and learning over the years. And that's really helpful for the younger children. All right. So ensure a conducive space, not just for studying. Parents, we are very good with making sure the home is a conducive space to study. You buy nice table, good lighting, study well, ergonomic chair, ergonomic table, everything for studying. But we also need to create a conducive and safe space for a child to use technology. Where can they use tech? Which part of the house? In what position? All right, these are all important factors that we need to consider. All right, so from the space, we move to your application, which is your style. And typically from a parenting style, parents here, we are mindful of the way we parent our children. So we have authoritarian, authoritative style, permissive style. Regardless of what style it is, I just wanted to just share this very quickly, that majority of us are probably working towards being authoritative. We want to be good with engaging our children and to discuss and good relationships. All right, we are definitely not going to be uninvolved. The fact that parents, you are here, and those parents tuning in at home, you are not an uninvolved parent, and that's a good thing. But sometimes we can be overly permissive. Sometimes we want to be more, we want to be firmer, but we don't quite balance it very well. And so the key here is to work towards the ideal. All right. And so with that in mind, I thought to quickly share this 3 different parenting styles in terms of digital engagement. Many of us, when our children are young, even many of the kids, and mummies and daddies, you're here, right? All right. You will try to stop your kids from watching certain things, stop at a certain time. We play very much a limiter role. All right. And some parents can be deviating towards being an enabler. You let your kids do whatever they want online. And that we all know can be dangerous or may not be ideal. So the ideal here is being a mentor to your children. Now, what does it mean to be a mentor to your children in terms of digital engagement and consumption? Parents here, we need to understand that space. And as a mentor, it means that you have experienced something and you are coaching and guiding your children in the digital aspect. The teachers in the preschools and in primary school, they do that very well because they are involved in it. But as parents, we need to be on top of things. So learn to curate, learn to engage your kids. If they're playing games, like parents here, what games do your kids play on their iPads and their devices? All right? They play those games, you play those games. All right? And that helps already. If they're on certain channel watching certain show, watch it with them or watch it before they watch it. I've consumed a lot of cartoons before my kids does, and which is why we allow certain cartoons and we don't allow certain ones. All right? And so there are going to be challenges in these 3 aspects. Being a mentor, parents, you must understand that the challenge for you here is that you need to constantly keep up with it. And that can be difficult for parents who are busy. All right? Parents who are busy. But my encouragement to you is to spend a bit of time to read up more, try out experience. In my work with families, one of the best things that ever happened is when a parent come up to me and say, Shem, thank you so much for teaching me how to play Brawl Star, how to play Minecraft. All right? We used to run programs where we teach parents how to play Counter-Strike. And the parents play the game, go back home, they will play with their kids. And then they say, wow, now I know why my kids talk that way, why he feels that way, and we could converse a little bit more. Of course, some of the parents play like Counter-Strike, 2-3 minutes, start vomiting, motion sickness.
I get motion sickness.
Yes, but it helps to experience a little bit, to understand the mechanics, and that helps parents in having conversation pointers. So that's really one important thing. All right. So how can we help? Very quickly, I just want to leave this with you. Parents, I want to leave these key things with you about starting your digital journey with a kid is to level up on your digital literacy. So parents, the research has shown, in fact, very quickly, the research has shown that for your child to be good with digital, to be digital literate, to be able to understand the dangers of technology use and the digital space, it's important for parents to do so. All right. So for parents, your digital literacy affects and impacts your child's digital literacy tremendously. So once you're more well-read in this space, you are experiencing more, you're able to impart that to your children. And so we want to be able to encourage parents to try. All right. So today, as a follow-up, a call to action, try a platform or a game that your primary school kid, your preschooler are trying, and give it a go. All right. And then you can write into us and let us know how is it for you. All right. But if you need me to teach you how to play games, we can look out for another day for that. I can teach you how to play the games. All right. So very quickly, I'm just going to skip some of this because of time. I just wanted to highlight this particular thing called boundaries. And as we talk about parenting your children in terms of style, boundaries are really crucial. Boundaries are important to set. And one of the key things that we want to encourage parents to think about in relation to the impact of screen, all right, is to set boundaries that is appropriate for our children. Beside looking at time, beside looking at duration when they should play, I highly encourage parents to consider the content, the location, and the behavior. These 4 areas: time, content, location, and behavior. Time you are all well aware of. The second thing is location, where, which I mentioned just now. Where can they play? The third is content. All right, what are they consuming? What kind of games they are playing? Right, that is really that will really be helpful in terms of influencing your child and the thoughts, the behavior, especially their speech. You'll be surprised you let your kids watch a certain, like my youngest one, my 6-year-old, watch this show called Grizzly and the Lemmings. I'm not too sure you've heard that before.
I know that.
You know that?
Yes.
Yeah. And I didn't think too much about it. I watched it and said it was fine. But I was not prepared for this when they started talking like lemmings.
They don't really talk, right?
They don't really talk, exactly.
Yeah.
So they started mumbling like the lemmings, and I had a hard time. And they will respond to me in lemming talk, and I had a hard time understanding my kids. And that was something I did not expect. And so we had to stop that for a while and tell my kids, if you continue to talk to me like that, and I don't understand you because I'm not grizzly bear, I'm not a lemming, we will not get to watch. And that's how powerful content is for our young children. They lap it up, they absorb it. And so it's not just about physical health, it's about how the influence. And so parents, we need to build their boundaries. So boundaries in terms of content is really important, especially for preschoolers. And the last is behavior. What is the boundary in terms of behavior for your children? Right? Before they get to watch, play a game or to watch an episode on Netflix, on YouTube or whatever, what is the behavior required? Ask for permission, indicate how long you want it to be, all right? I will watch for how long and then have a break. Have some of these boundaries in place. What are the consequences of not keeping to those boundaries? These are essentials for parents or preschooler to really work on in terms of their child's digital engagement or cyber space exploration. Because once you do this well, parents, you will have lesser concern and issues as they get older. You set the stage, you build the foundation. Along the way, you are just plugging in and adding more layers and support to your child in terms of the digital experience. And that's really crucial. By and large, we try to avoid limiting completely because our kids need to know how to thrive in the digital space. And in order to do so, parents, we need to role model for our children. All right. So if you are constantly on your phone, parents, I don't know how many of you ever have your kids come to you and say, put down your phone. Any of your kids come to you and say, put down your phone? No? Parents at home?
Don't remember.
Don't remember. So the key is we want to be good role models for our children, and it's a work in progress. Even for myself, I spend a lot of time on my phone. The person who teaches me and reminds me is my wife. Yeah. So,
yes.
Yeah. So we try our best, and which is why the intentionality come into play. So with that, I hope this has been we'll have more questions during the panel session, but we come to the health aspect. I'll leave it to two great doctors here, but I hope this will give you an idea of how important your role as a parent is in role modeling and teaching your kids how to be safe and be well in the digital space. All right. Thank you so much, and I hope I'm excited for your questions.
Yeah, that's. I thank you, Shem. Let's give him a round of applause. I think it's a really good, very succinct and insightful presentation from a parent point of view, father's point of view, and also an expert's point of view. I also wanted to just. I thought about what you said towards the end, and I feel that as a parent, I would rather my kids explore the digital world with me first than with their friends. Yeah, because I don't want them to go to school and be like, oh, there are such fun things that I didn't know, and then just continue with them instead of with me.
Yes, I think that's really important. For example, all the games that my eldest son is playing right now were all introduced by me. Yeah, so I literally played the game first, got really good at it, and introduced to my son, and he started playing it. And the interesting thing is that though all his friends are playing other games and he picks it up, I'm really there, and I've really told him about it. And the parents who are concerned, oh, am I limiting my kids? What if they may be lagging behind? Parents worry that if I don't expose my kid, give them more opportunity, they'll be lagging behind. Children picks up digital skills very quickly, very, very quickly. My son picked up this new game that I introduced to him. I was quite good at it. Within a week and a half, he overtook me. That's how powerful how quick they are. So I'm constantly honing my craft in making sure that I'm ahead of him. So far I'm still there.
And also to clarify, I used to play Counter-Strike before I had kids. My boys are 3 and 8. They are not allowed to know Counter-Strike yet.
Not yet.
Okay, thank you, Shem. Moving on, we have from the medical point of view, digital health for kids. We have our second speaker, Dr. Chitra, and she will be telling us about parenting in the digital age. Dr. Chitra, please.
Thank you. Thanks, Shem. It was a wonderful presentation, and I think I probably will be sharing quite a few similar things as well. And actually, it's a very good learning experience for us as well as professionals. So as we all know, digital technology, is part of most of our family lives, and in this 21st century. In this 21st century, we know technology is all around us. So I'm hoping to just give you some pointers towards advantages of digital technology, and of course, some disadvantages too. But I'm not delving deep into the disadvantages. And then probably some information around healthy digital habits and some practical suggestions what you could be using. And a little bit about how we spend the whole day, so just balancing between sleep and physical activity, and then some resources towards the end. So if you just look, this is one of the data which was collected recently, and we could see that Singapore is quite high on the list, actually, and we are quite privileged. And children who are under 15, you could see there was about 96% of the children were able to access internet. So this shows that we are living in a privileged age where they have access to internet and how we use it effectively. So just moving into the advantages, I'm just going to discuss some of the advantages of digital technology. Good, age-appropriate content and with parental co-viewing, we see that it enhances the creativity for children, and then it also helps in building problem-solving skills. There's also evidence which suggests that visual mathematics helps reduce the learning gap in mathematics for children. So it also makes the learning fun. So using appropriate apps and websites, we could help children learn. And of course, the social connection between family, using video calling, or, when we play together, as Shem was mentioning, co-viewing together with our children or playing together, it helps us have a good bonding with the children. Likewise, friendship. Yes, there is lots of evidence to say that older children who are able to improve on their social skills through online activities too. So it's about using the right media use. Okay. Also, if you look at children who are with autism as well, actually there is evidence to say that computer-based interventions does improve their social emotional skills. And also, if you do take the latest advances with virtual reality and augmentative communication methods, so all these do help for children with autism and ADHD too. So yes, there's lots of literatures around preschool age children. Using educational TV programs can improve on their learning. Likewise, educational games and app for school children also will help, in their academic performance. There's lots of advantages, but of course we have to balance it, so we do need to be aware of some of the disadvantages. So what we do realize, and I've specifically said, unsupervised passive screen time use. So what we mean by passive screen time use is when children are just watching the TV without having much involvement from parents, so they just let alone. And even the background TV, for example, also constitutes as passive screen use. So we do notice that, not having much two-way communication and children just sitting in front of the TV can have an impact on their language. It can also affect their learning. And for older children, we notice excessive, screen use in the bed, around the bedrooms, and or just before falling asleep, and it has got some impact on their educational as well as their behavioral difficulties too. So it can affect their attention and concentration. So you see that excessive screen time use just can cause short attention span, and children may experience like an ADHD type picture. They can become more impulsive and have behavioral difficulties. Yes, of course, as I said, it can affect the sleep, and there's also evidence to state that poor habits, for example, sitting in front of the TV and then snacking all along, or having some handheld devices which they just keep very close and they just spending excessive hours, can affect and cause obesity and myopia too. So I think we need to be more careful, particularly in Singapore. We know that over 50% of our children, by the time I think they're over 12, are all myopic and wearing glasses. So I think it's very important that we take this into account. So this is actually one of our study, which was done in KK, where when children presented to the Child Development Department, they did a parental screening questionnaire on screen use, behavior, sleep, and development. And what was interesting was nearly 60% of the children had screen devices in the bedroom, and nearly over half of them were using screen before 18 months of age. And nearly 3/4 of them had sleep problems and also increased behavioral difficulties. So you could see that only there was just over a third of the parents were aware of what are the professional guidances around the screen use. So we're hoping to now, discuss on some of the healthy screen habits. So we need to, as Shem was mentioning, is not just the screen time, but also this its importance of having appropriate content. It's choosing the right apps and games, and then also watching it together with them and playing together with them to improve their experiences. So when we when we talk about screen time, it's about using all the devices, right? So it could be the computers, laptops, or smartphones, and video games, and so on. So we have the American Academy of Paediatrics and Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health from UK. So internationally have given a lot of guidances for us on healthy use of screen time and what are the impacts of the screen time on children. And there's guidance available for parents as well as for clinicians too. So this is what the American Academy of Pediatrics tells us. It suggests that for children under 18 months, we have to avoid using digital media. I will discuss about this a little later. And then, it says, between 18 to 24 months and between 2 to 5 years of age. So, we should be looking at less than an hour to an hour of, spending screen time. And for over 6, of course, we have to limit and balance it. So yeah, we'll discuss about a little bit more in detail. So if you look at the first 18 months of age, we notice that actually it's a key stage of brain development. In the first 3 years, we notice the brain develops, significantly. So this is a stage where the children learn more through, physical relationship, with a social relationship, and engaging, looking at the face of parents. So they are learning through just their life experiences. So, it may be playing peekaboo with them, or, you just take them for a park and walk, and then you just show them whatever they're watching and talking to them about it, or, using some shape sorters, or, so it's all about, physical hands-on learning experience for these children. So, and again, the social interaction always helps with the language development. So it's a definite no-no for children who are under 18 months with media. For 18 to 24 months, again, we have to be mindful when we do expose them to digital media. However, if it's done with the parental guidance, I think it's okay. So when they view it together with us, then they're likely to learn more. So again, avoid, solo use. So we don't want them to just watch on that. So if you look at 2 to 5 year old kids, then we talk about, using the right apps. So what are the things which good educational apps and games, and then, using non-violent programs and non-fast-paced. So we don't want any fast-paced, because these children at this age are very difficult for them to understand what's happening also. So you would want it, appropriate content. For over 6 years, then here it's very difficult to impose a time scale, for these children, because there's lots of school work, where they have to just surf the internet. So this is age, for children who are entering into school, I think we have to then collaborate with them and then, come up with a plan, what works for us as a family. So there's no always, one rule fits, all families. We have to just adapt according to what our needs are. So this website, it's about the healthychildren.org media use plan. Actually, it talks about family, creating your own family plan. So this, you can just personalize it, based on the age of the child. Actually, it's also interesting to see we can actually put our own details, and actually we can come up with a plan for ourselves too. So it's interesting, so it actually tells us, what we do's and don'ts, and you can just use that for family use. So again, locally, we have, latest guidances. It talks about, the guidance on screen use in children, and also there's evidence-based review. And again, it gives us some similar, information of the do's and, don'ts. So as I was talking about, background screen exposure can cause a significant, impact on the child's attention concentration. So we don't want background TV. So you just encourage them, say, if you're wanting them to watch for an hour a day, so you can split it into 3 20-minute slots, so they can watch something which they like for 20 minutes, and then maybe you can choose an app, and then you can sit together and co-view, because we also have to understand it's not always possible to sit together and watch all the programs with children. So now we set, we have a plan, and then, so when you make the plan, we set up some family rules, around which we can try work, definite no's, for screen time. So you choose a zone, or how, in the house, for example, we don't want any screen time in bedroom, or we don't want any when we're having a family meal. So this is a time where we're bonding, we want talking about what happened in the school, or, you just want to have a friendly, like a discussion in the family. So those are definite no's. And definitely also, you can see that no screen an hour before bedtime. And this is something which we clearly know that evidence states that young children who are watching just before bedtime, the quality of sleep is poor. And also I think it affects your time taking to fall asleep, so that delays it for us. So I think it's important we focus on that. And yes, of course, when you're playing with your children, you want undivided attention to them. So some other rules we set is, definitely, as Shem was mentioning, you should probably want to test your app before you allow your child to play, and then it's important that, we role model, because children are constantly looking up to us to see what we are doing. And I guess actually when we try to look into our own, before we look into children's screen time and, their engagement, we need to look into what we are doing. And actually that gives us an idea, so it's very important. I might just, so this is again, something from the Royal College, which just gives us, there's no one rule, as I said, fits all families. So we may want to just go through and see, actually, is it really affecting your, household? And how does it interfere in activities you want to do? You want to go out for a park and actually the child just doesn't want to come and just want to sit in your gadget, then yes, it does affect your day-to-day life. So you may want to look into it. Does it interfere with your sleep or, with your health? It's sedentary, as I said, eating habits and snacking is something you need to look at. So we look at the content. We discussed a little bit already. We want to make sure, we have a right content for the while we are teaching them. So I have some websites I've just put up here, which may be useful. Like the Common Sense Media gives you advice on what apps you may want to choose or what educational activities. So it talks about, different books or TV and so on. So this actually, based on the age, may be useful for you to look at. Okay, so just going back, so there's also like the stories, for storyline for children where, the celebrities do the story reading, and you can use that, as a bedtime story if you're not able to sit with your child. PBS Kids, and, these are some of the apps which may be useful, for getting your child ready for school. We discussed earlier also about the co-viewing and co-playing. So actually co-viewing is when you're watching it together with your child. So your child learns better from you. For example, if you are talking about a program, so maybe you choose their interested program, you sit together and you watch, and then it gives you a conversation. You can talk about, actually, what did you like about this program? Was it funny? Was it scary? Or how did you feel about it? And then you can talk about, say, if it's a story, you can talk about, what happened first, what happened next, what happened in the end. So it just gives you an idea about the sequence of the events. Are they able to narrate the event with you? So you could just choose what you want to focus on. If you want to talk about emotions, you can use that too. So it actually could be a very good way of interacting with your child and knowing what their interests are. So I might just move on. So once we've had some idea on what are the activities you could do, now we need to think about, a whole day approach. So Singapore integrated 24 hours activity guidelines for early childhood, which is under 7 years. There's also another one for between 6 for children and adolescents as well. And I know Dr. Law actually has been a part of the, the whole the guidance in the screen time and this as well. So it actually talks about physical activities, how you should balance the physical activity, the sleep, the time spent in recreational screen time use, and also on healthy eating habits. So again, based on the age, there's lots of information available if you look online. So they talk about infants, for example, tummy time. You need to spend at least like 30 minutes of tummy time for the infants in the first year. And then as they grow older, you're looking at, nearly 180 minutes, like 3 hours of free play, physical activities. And when they are coming up to school age, you're looking at least like 60 minutes of, moderate to vigorous activity for the per day for children. And here it talks about recreational screen use is less than 2 hours per day. That's mainly for school age kids. But then for other younger ones, we need to just moderate, as we discussed earlier. And yes, of course, healthy eating habits, you can be a role model. So if, children with picky eating, we often see in the clinics. And actually, if you have an opportunity to sit one meal a day with the children, and then, if you just, if they see you eating different and experiencing different types of food, that may be useful for them to model as well. And then moving into the sleep recommendations. So yes, of course, all of us, I had, my 2 boys when they were little, they would just go to bed quite late. And then the next day morning, dropping them to school, waking them up and then getting them ready was such a hard time for us. Once we started settling the screen time and essentially the sleep time, particularly we managed to get them to bed on time. Actually, in the morning, it was much easier. They were actually waking up with, a smile, and actually they were even able to have the breakfast. It was always a rush in the past. So actually that makes a real difference, for families. So I would definitely say sleep is one area you may want to focus on. And so these are the timings they say, including the naps too, Okay, so, and then these are recommendations for the school age kids. So yes, actually they do say, it could be anywhere from 9 to 11 hours for primary school, and then 8 to 10 for secondary, and 7 to 9, but yes, that's a lower limit. So as we discussed this earlier, sleep obviously is very important, and the blue light emission from the screen can affect your melatonin production in your brain. And it switches off the melatonin, and hence has difficulty in falling asleep. So you take a longer time to fall asleep. So that is main reason that we talk about turning off an hour before bedtime. And then always ensure that the gadgets are out of your bedroom. So finally, just some of the resources. We discussed about media plan, and then yes, of course, non-screen activities. You may want to also explore, how a family day out could be for us. The teenager, no, we didn't have a chance to discuss much, but I guess this may give some information. This is something we already discussed, so I've just put it up, just to summarize some of these resources. And then Health Hub. SG has beautiful information on the Parents Hub, where you could just access based on the age. So it talks about healthy eating, screen time, educational activities, all sorts of useful information. And yes, these are some of the other websites from other countries which I find useful. So in summary, we discussed about how we could use our screen time in a better way to educate our children, and how we can co-view together and co-play, and definitely I would say for children under 18 months, screen time is a definite no, and then just use life experiences to help them learn. Parental role modeling is definitely a key aspect that we all have to think about. And of course, have a good plan, and then have a balanced routine. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chitra. Thank you. A round of applause for Doctor, please. All right. Moving on, our third presenter, she's of course a mom as well, and she's also a pediatrician. So she's going to be sharing with us the potential benefits and dangers of digital media use in young children. And before she begins with her presentation, I just want to remind all of you, if you have any questions, we will have a short Q&A session after Dr. Law's presentation. So now I'll hand it over to Dr. Evelyn.
Thank you so much. You made it to the very last part. So hopefully this will interest you a lot, because Dr. Chitra talked about a lot of rules and a lot of guidelines, and we need to know where is this information coming from in Singapore. So in my lab, that's actually what I study every day. So we're going to be looking at data about Singaporean children. So let's take a look. So I'm sure we all grow up in a very different type of digital media age. So I hope in the next maybe 5 to 10 minutes, I'll be able to give you some information about, the current digital age, and so that you could have more evidence or just equip you with more knowledge to make those decisions for your own family. So let's just look a little bit into Singapore. So this is taking data from Gusto. I don't know if you heard of this study. It's called Growing Up in Singapore Towards Healthy Outcomes. And this data actually came from 2010. So you could see how long ago it is. It's 13 years ago. And you can see the majority of children ages 1 and 2 are already exposed to digital media in Singapore. And then what's really startling is what actually just came up is about 5%. So 1 in 20 kids are actually doing their work week in front of TVs. So 40 hours and above, which is quite a bit. And I think there are different reasons to it. Some family will say, oh, I heard this, program helps with my child build this language. And so they would do it for many hours. So the funny thing is the guidelines actually say no or limited screen time, right? For 18 months or 24 months children. So there's this really huge disconnect. In Singapore, we're seeing this data, and then the guidelines tell us something else. So certainly something that we should discuss going into the panel. I think for many of you, we see some very similar slides, is that in the past 2 years, Singapore has actually developed our own guidance. I'm part of actually both of these groups putting together this guidance. And you would say, well, why up until 18 months? We actually have science and evidence to back that up. And so I'm going to talk maybe just 2 slides into why 18 months. Before that, we really don't encourage screen time. So I'm not going to go into more about this. Again, so Shem and Dr. Chitra mentioned it's not all about time, but just look at the trend. This is how digital age is going to continue. So age 1, we're already seeing about 2 hours per day, and it keeps going up. And then at age 10, if we look at this same study, these kids are up to about 5.3 hours. And we collected this data actually during the circuit breaker. So we could see that about 2 hours of it goes into school. But still there's a bulk of time that is for entertainment only. And it's probably going to continue even more. And different from before, when there's just that one TV in your home, we are now dealing with many more devices, to the point that is about 2/3, use is really the phone. And then you can see, it keeps going. So, other than time, I really want to spend time on, thinking about content, thinking about the different ages that we're talking about. So, I often get this question, to watch or not to watch. It's actually not very simple. There's not a just yes or no, but there is actually an age where I would say no, and that's actually 18 months and younger. Why do I say that? We all talk about, content is important, all of that. But I study infants, and what we know is that they don't really learn too much from the screen. And I'm going to show you some examples here. But let's just go quickly and look at that child. We all think that our child are really good at navigating the screen, but did you see those English words are upside down? I don't think the child actually knows, and I don't know how much that child's actually learning from that screen. Whereas if you look at a 3D, this child actually will know that these are all my toys and what the adult have done with the toys. And you could also see that the child's looking up, once in a while to check in with, look at that, right? So you're missing a lot of this interaction when they're young. And what I'm going to talk about specifically is the video deficit. So imagine that the child is used to seeing that doll 3-dimensional. What we know about infants is that when they see it on that screen, actually no activation. They really might not know that this is that doll. Same with a house cat or any type of pet. And you might remember when your child was young and you're doing video chatting, sometimes the first few times you have to say, this is grandma, this is papa, this is gong gong, and then finally they got it. And once they got it, great, they finally know. So one thing to remember is these young children, you think they might be learning, it might be very tough unless you sit next to them and guiding them and say, see, this is your cat that you see every day at your home. So I'm going to give you another quick example is that why I discourage infants from being exposed to so much screen time is that every single lighting change, every scene change, they're not able to process it. So when you watch this video later, not yet, just think of yourself as the child and say, if I didn't understand what this creature is, what this spaceship is, and just think about all the lighting change, all the speed changes, it's actually quite overwhelming and it bombards the brain. So do you mind if you play that now? So imagine you're a 10-month-old baby and watching this. And you can see our video source. This is Star Wars. You could see that every single scene change, the child has no idea what's going on. They see just kind of light being bombarded, especially you see right here, the background is moving so quickly. For adults, right? Every day we're in a car, we actually understand, oh, this is because I'm going so fast, right? but a child won't know this. So all of this is just what's happening, and bombarding the brain. And so we know from our lab by watching these children that they actually have some immaturity in how they develop their brain because they're getting this type of bombardment every day. So let's take a look at the next slide here. So you say, well, what if I don't have an infant? I have a preschooler. So we did study preschool kids. And what we know is that the attention is also an area that is affected. Up to the age of 9, we have seen that in our Gusto kids. And then if you look at intelligence, just IQ alone, for every extra hour of TV watch, there is an association. So it's correlated with a decrease in IQ at the age of 4.5. And then social skills also, we could see that difficulties persist. We practice every day by, how we talk to other people, even when we learn our manners, right? It's not really things we can really capture easily from the screen unless a parent is guiding you through it. And so you might be a little bit scared of this slide. Actually, all the science around the world are basically showing the same thing. But instead of this slide like shaming parents, it's not meant to be that way. I think this is where what Cham talked about is really important, is that, we should try to learn to set boundaries and know what are the content that's really, more, beneficials. I'm going to go into those slides, by the way, and just being intentional and not using the screens just as babysitters. So, 2 more slides on my lab here. You can see these happy families here. Another way we can look in the brain is actually through something called EEG. It's a bit complicated. I'm not going to go into more about it. But you just wear this cap, and then it can detect all the brain waves in the brain. And this, let me just guide you a bit. We looked at all the infants in Singapore, and we separated them into watching less than 1 hour per day, more than 1 hour, more than 2 hours, more than 4 hours. And let me just say that if you look at that kind of more green color, that is really a more typical pattern that we would see in infants. We did this at 18 months, actually. And then as you watch more and more, you see the redder color. It's actually higher waveform, but these waves are actually the less alert waveform, not the sleepier type of waveform. So you're not as alert and not as focused. And so this gives us reasons to think why the attention would be more affected in infants when they have this excessive exposure to screens. So you could see what's happening in the brain on top of what we see in real life. So there are benefits, though, so I don't want to forget about that. And Dr. Chitra gave us a lot of resources about it, but there are actually studies to show, and these are not the only shows, of course, but if you focus on the shows that are mostly to build school readiness, letters, numbers, and all of that, there are benefits. They do learn from that. And then things like Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, I saw in the last set of slides also. They have little cute songs about teaching, oh, it's okay this time, I made a mistake, So they learn about these pro-social behaviors also. So this is, again, the word curate comes to mind, right? Being intentional and curating what is the content. So sometimes you would think, oh, I can just have the action movie playing all day at home. The background type of TV, but actually spending even just 1 minute thinking about what is the show that might benefit my child, that's pretty important. I think I'll quickly just skim through this, but I'm not saying that digital screens all have dangers. It's actually a really good learning tool. This example I like to give all the time is that we're not going to suddenly fly to Africa or fly to different areas in Asia that has these elephants. But with one little show, we can find out so much more. Actually, the tip of their nose, the African ones have 2 fingers, to grab onto things. And the Asian ones actually have 1 on top. So you can see these things you can learn really quickly on the screen that we might not otherwise be able to. And again, video chat, which Dr. Chitra talked about, those are all things that gives children benefits, but it takes a parent to really curate it and find the right things for the child to be looking at. And so this is probably an important slide. Many of you will say, "Oh my, I'm a mom. I have so many things to do, right? Every day I need to run this errand. I need to cook for my family, So there are times when you really need to use the screen, but we can use that as teaching moments too. Shem started out by saying, dinner's ready, all of that. You can use the screen every day as a teaching moment. So you cook for maybe 15 minutes, your child will get some type of screen time. And then when you're all done, right, then you can say to the child, okay, time's up. It's time for dinner. So it's good practice. Don't wait until they're teenagers when they're bigger than you. That might be a little bit too late. So these type of transitioning, even though it's tough, a lot of my patients will say, I tried it already. I tried it once and the child screamed for hours. Try it again and try it again. Every day we have to eat, right, for dinner. So if you keep trying, the child realize, oh, okay. So a good example is if every day a child wakes up and you give sweets, when one day he wakes up and no sweets, the child will scream and yell, right? So this is the same thing. The first time you do it is going to be tough, but use it as a teaching moment. If you really got to give the screen, we all stop. When you're done with your errand, we all stop at the same time and this way the child really learns. Another way is really, this is a starting point to discuss. I mentioned when I started, right, that there are fights at home, but it's actually a good starting point. If I end up fighting with, either the helper, grandparents, or my husband about these rules, it's good time to talk about consistency. How do we view all of this? At the end of the day, just remember helping a teenager understand media and boundaries is a lot harder. So starting early is certainly, the way to go. Okay, so this is the last part now, is Shem talked about content. And we actually have a cute little study that looked at really fast-paced, like really, really fast-paced type of cartoons versus just an educational show or drawing. And you can see here the self-regulation games of just watching this for 7 to 9 minutes is that kids do differently depending on the content they watch. And so this little game that I'm going to show later on is called head, shoulder, knees, and toes. It's not that easy. It's not like, oh, I tell you to touch your head, then you touch your head. It's the opposite. So if I say head, the child has to touch their toes. If I say shoulder, they have to touch their knees. So it's the opposite. And you could see that actually only 9 minutes of this fast-paced type of cartoon in this study changes how a child actually performs in that. So do you want to play it? It's really short. So the lady is now saying, oh, touch your shoulders. And he went for the shoulders and then he corrected and went to the knees. So you could see that from a lot of this type of cute studies, you realize that content really matters. And then this one, Dr. Chitra mentioned already, if you really have a hard time understanding or knowing what's the content that fits my 2-year-old, Common Sense Media is definitely a place to look at. At the end of the day, the context is really important. I think that goes with the location that Shem was talking about. And, you know, when we have times where we have to use the screen as a babysitter or a pacifier, there are days like that. I don't want to, you know, finish this panel without actually acknowledging that I also use that. Sometimes we must. I have to finish some work. I have to do all of this. I call it a little bit of a drain in the family system, which is okay. So don't give yourself a lot of guilt. I think what really matters is the other things you deposit. So when I have a really busy day coming, I might spend 5 minutes just playing with my kid, letting my kid do whatever he tells me or she tells me to do. I can squirm on the floor like a worm. Whatever it is, you're depositing that time knowing that you will need to use the screen later on. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So these are all things that I already talked about. But I think the last part is probably the most important, is really using the screens with intention. Just like that piggy bank thing that you saw. Really, if you need to use screens, try to deposit some other ways of interacting with your child. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Evelyn. Actually, I'm very, very curious. Just a quick question from myself, because I was watching this and I remembered one of the tricks I used on my young children when I really needed time to myself or sanity is to play podcasts to them. So for audio stimulation, I believe it's a little bit different from video. Is it a slightly better alternative if I play, let's say, a podcast, or even I play the audio of the TV show for them instead of letting them watch that? Is that better?
Yeah, so certainly if you remember, the bombardment of all of that is really infant. The visual part of things is really infant when we talk about potential dangers. So podcast is excellent in a way it does, you know, need the attention of the child, but it could be really engaging story. So that's a really good suggestion also.
Thank you. Please tune into my podcast, 成语最加分. It's available on Me Listen and Spotify. Thank you. Okay, we have time for one quick question because we have had so much information and knowledge from our three experts. Okay, so sorry about the rush, but if you have any questions, please put up your hands now because we have time for one more question. No, nobody has, no? Okay. Yes, we have a microphone for you. I think maybe everyone has too many questions. Don't know where to start.
Thank you. My name is Mr. Kia.
Hi, Mr. Kia.
Thanks for the panel discussion and for the information. I just want to add on, right? I was actually thinking of maybe for a podcast, I was thinking of maybe getting a Spotify account to actually for my daughter to listen instead of watching on YouTube the symphony orchestra. I was thinking of getting a Spotify account for her to listen to those like orchestra performances. I think is this appropriate? Thank you.
Oh,
and
okay.
Also, second question is, how does the EEG thing work?
How does the EEG thing? It's going to take like a semester. I don't know.
Should I quickly answer that and we open to your discussion of, you know, symphony and podcasts?
Okay.
The EEG, I don't want to take up so much time, but it's a cap that you wear and it has these things called electrode, these leads. It actually has 128 of them and it collects basically brain waves real time. So you can have the child be watching something or the child could just be sleeping and it collects all the information and we can look at the different types of brain waves, the more alert ones, the less alert ones. And so that's one way we do our research. Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully we can talk later also about that. Yeah.
Thank you. We have answered your question, right? I think. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Evelyn. Okay, I think that's about as much time as we have had. Sorry, was there another part of the question? Okay, we can take it offline. Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Once again, let's give all three experts a round of applause. Shem, Dr. Chitra, and Dr. Evelyn. They've really shared a lot today. And I want to remind you as well, a little bit of announcements. On the 24th of June, there's a PCF Sparkle Tots open house. Do visit openhouse.pcf.org.sg or scan the QR codes over there for more information. And also there are other activities as well. And there's another panel at 3:15 p.m. right here later on. I believe there's also live stream, so you can take a look out for it. And if you are here, if you need any questions answered, you can approach our friendly PCF staff in their red t-shirts, all right? Once again, thank you so much for being part of this PCF Parenting Conference today. My name is Pei Fen. Thank you. Thank you again to our three experts. Thank you. All right, maybe we can now take a photo together.